Hi everybody, it's Mena. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the very first video that you're seeing of me, then welcome to my channel. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below if you didn't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes, and today's video is going to be about my top 10 tips for kids and parents. One second. At the library. So, sorry if you heard noise, it's the door. Anyway, kids and parents at the library. So I know libraries are a great place to take kids because there's tons of books for kids to read and everything, and it's a great thing to do is go to the library for books, and especially to take your kids because there's a tons of great kids books at the library. But you also have to remember to teach your kids proper library etiquette and what to do and what not to do at a library. So I'm gonna get started, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. And if you're parents and you have kids, I hope you like it too. Give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. So I'm gonna get started, and I hope you enjoy. So number one on my list would be, if your child is crying, take them outside until they've calmed down. This is a really good tip because sometimes kids have a tendency to cry really loud, and if a kid is just crying super loud because they're hungry, they want something, or they don't know why they just cry because they're upset or having a bad day. Kids have bad days, but you should take them outside until that side, because you don't want them crying in the library because there's other people like studying, people trying to read their books, and you just don't want to bother them. And it's not really appropriate to cry it's kind of rude to cry in a library because there are other people doing their schoolwork and stuff and studying for tests and everything. So it makes it so, and people doing their homework, so not a lot of people can really focus with that kind of noise going on. Number two on my list would be, if your child is hungry, bring snacks with you for them to eat outside. You're not really allowed to eat in a library unless the library has a cafe. If the library has a cafe, you can always get food there, but sometimes the food can get a little pricey. So a good tip is, if there's no places to buy food around your library, you can always just go and grab something to eat that's close to eat before you get to the library, and then you can take your kids to like a park that's near your library and eat outside, because some libraries don't really have a place to eat. My library doesn't have a place to eat, but I've been to one library that actually has a place to eat, and the food is good, but it is a little pricey. So always take snacks with you, so then just in case your child is hungry, or if you're near a place that has food, you can always just grab food, but it's just much cheaper to bring your own food. Number three on my list would be, if your child is yelling, quietly tell them to keep their voices down. Because I know sometimes kids get so excited when they're going to libraries, and when they want their book, or sometimes if they're frustrated. It's important to remind them of library etiquette and not to be loud, because there are other people studying and doing their schoolwork and just trying to read a book and everything. So it's always good to remind your child, not to yell in the library, because I know kids sometimes don't always understand how to control their volume and everything. But you also got to remind them that when they're in a library, they shouldn't be yelling. Number four on my list would be, don't let your child run around the library. So this is a good thing, because when your child is running around the library, they could knock books off, they could bother the other people running around the library, so they could be laughing and playing and not realizing it's not funny. So you never want to let your child run around the library, because libraries are places for people to work and do their schoolwork and study, not for a child to play. If your child wants to play, you could take them to a park that might be close to the library, but you never want to take them to play at a library, because it'll become a library for your child to play in, because you got to teach your child not to run around and play in the library. It's not really appropriate unless they're sitting at the table coloring, so that's probably the way they could do it. Number five on my list would have to be, go to the kids section with your child. This is a good idea to make sure your child doesn't walk out with any books, or to make sure your child doesn't accidentally mess up the books or knock any books off the place or take everything off the shelves. It's just a good idea to maybe supervise your child to make sure they don't mess with the books or ruin any of the books, because if you ruin a book, you got to pay for it. I mean, library books are expensive for the library. Right, so always just watch your child when they're around the books because you don't want your child ruining a library, and you don't want ruining the library books, and you don't want to pay for a fee. Number 6 on my list would be read the book with your child. This is just in case your child doesn't know how to read, or this so your child understands what the story is about, and it makes it extra fun for their child to want to read. It's always just fun to read a book with them because it gets them really engaged into finding out what books they want from the bookshelf or the kids' books. Because I know my mom definitely did that with me when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed that. Number 8 on my list would have to be, Number 7 on my list would have to be watch your child with the books. Like I said, this is just so they don't ruin the books or damage it, or if it does get damaged, you have to pay a library fee, and like I said, library fees are so expensive, and it's just so they don't ruin the books, like I said. Number 8 on my list would be grab a book for your child from the kids section. So the kids, like I said, the kids section has great options for kids, and then you can just get it because if the child gets it, they might accidentally knock off the books or mess up the library stuff. It's not really a good thing because you don't want your child messing up the library section, the children's section in the library. And I'm sorry the lighting keeps getting weird. It's my ceiling fan that's up there. And oh yeah, it's like so weird. It's going from light to dark, I think. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just the lighting's really weird. So anyway, make sure you do that because you don't want your kids messing up the book section. Number 9 on my list would be if your child knocks the books off the shelf, tell them that's unacceptable. So it's not okay for children to like knock the books off. I mean, I understand children will have their bad days and they'll look for things to take their frustrations out on, but you never want to let your child mess with the library stuff because the library stuff is expensive, and it makes a lot more work for the librarian if your child makes a mess of the books. So always just watch your kids and make sure they don't knock anything off, especially if it's breakable like glass. Not that a library would have any breakable glass or anything, but always make sure they don't knock anything important off. Number 10 on my list would have to be make sure your child cleans up after himself if he leaves crayons or paper out. So there are some libraries that'll have some activities for kids to do, like drawing, coloring. I know my school libraries definitely had like extra paper for us to color with, and so what we would do is we would color with crayons and everything. We would color like crayons or like markers and stuff. This is when I was in middle school. My kids library, I don't have kids, but my library for when I was in elementary school didn't have that stuff. But my middle school library did. So it's always important to make sure your child cleans up after himself, like teach them how to pick up all the crayons and everything, like to make sure they don't leave a mess, and just how important it is to clean if they leave crayons out, because it's always important to teach your child to always clean up after himself and not rely on other people to do it. Number 11 on my list would have to be if your child goes to the restroom, follow them to make sure they're actually going to the restroom. Now this is super important to do because you don't want your child to go to the restroom just to play in the restroom, because sometimes that's what kids will do, is they'll go into the restroom just to play in the restroom, not actually use the restroom. So if your child has to go to the restroom, just go with him or her to make sure they're actually using the restroom, because you don't want them like messing up the library restroom or making a mess and not cleaning up after themselves. So it's always important to follow a young child, unless it's a teenager. Unless it's a teenager, it's perfectly fine. But if it's a really small child, like from the age of 5 or really little, like to 3, just make sure you go to the restroom with them, just so they are using the restroom just to use it, not going in there to play or make a mess. So I do have a story about how somebody tricked my supervisor into letting them go to the restroom, and they actually weren't, and I'll leave the link to that story in the description box down below. Okay, so those are my top 11 tips for kids and parents at the library. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes, and I apologize this video is long, but thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!